1,000 meters below the Indian Ocean, an autonomous vehicle sweeps its beam across a trench no one has mapped before. A pattern appears. Clean. Symmetrical. Too precise to be stone. The reflection repeats. Again. It's not drift. It's not noise. Something metallic is resting on the seafloor, half buried, but intact enough to cast a perfect shadow. A voice breaks the silence. Mark that coordinate. Run another pass. The monitors blink. The shape doesn't vanish. It sharpens. For the first time in 11 years, the ocean gives something back. What if the world's most elusive aircraft was never lost, only waiting beneath us all along? What if new technology just pierced the last wall of silence left by MH370? And what if the data hiding in that signal proves that someone guided it? Before this night, every sonar sweep had ended the same way. Empty grids, blank reports, and unanswered calls to the families who still wait. But this time, the reflections didn't scatter. They aligned. Like ribs, like wings. Analysts back on deck stare at the feed in disbelief. The coordinates sit far outside any official search zone, deeper, harsher, untouched. And just as the data begins to upload to shore, another signal surfaces from somewhere else entirely. A faint tremor in the planet's oldest communication web, WSPR, the radio whisper network that once helped track distant aircraft through distortions in the ionosphere. Two signals, one from the depths, one from the sky, both speaking the same name. Silence. Then, the heartbeat thrum of sonar resumes. The discovery would ignite a chain reaction of reanalysis and doubt. Because if the shape on the seafloor is what it appears to be, then the story of MH370 didn't end in disappearance. It ended in decision. It began like every other long-haul night. 12 crew, 227 passengers, a routine climb into calm skies, and a timeline that would fracture aviation history. At 0:42 a.m., the Boeing 777 lifts from the runway at Kuala Lumpur International. Smooth acceleration, stable climb, controllers hand off to Vietnamese airspace. Normal, predictable. Then, 1:19 a.m. The final words are transmitted. "Good night, Malaysian 370. 2 minutes later, the transponder goes silent. Civilian radar loses its echo. No distress call, no squawk, just absence. But military radar, still awake, catches something else. A sharp turn, a climb, and a steady flight path back across the Malaysian peninsula. Controlled, calculated. Over the next 7 hours, satellite handshakes, simple digital pings, trace a slow descent into the southern Indian Ocean. No voice, no signal, just a pattern of arcs. Each one a heartbeat from a machine still flying through the dark. When investigators map those arcs, the result is a broad zone stretching across millions of square kilometers. A place so remote that no ship, no aircraft, no beacon could reach it in time. For a decade, this void has held the world's most persistent question. How can an aircraft this sophisticated simply vanish in an age when every movement is tracked? On shore, families wait in terminals frozen in time. Suitcases still tagged for Beijing. Departure boards still flashing, delayed. For them, every new analysis, every new search zone is not data. It's hope measured in coordinates. And in early 2025, for the first time in years, those coordinates changed. Because in February, the sonar grids of ocean infinity lit up with something no algorithm could dismiss. A reflection where none should be. A shape too clean to ignore. And just as the seafloor revealed its secret, the sky began to whisper its own. Through the faint radio scatter of the WSPR network, two worlds, deep sea and high frequency, about to collide. To understand the discovery, you have to understand the systems that found it. 3 separate instruments, 3 different environments, and one story that only becomes visible when they overlap. First, WSPR, the Weak Signal Propagation Reporter Network. Thousands of amateur radio stations across the planet, bouncing whisper-thin signals through the ionosphere. Each ping leaves a fingerprint, a faint echo of how radio waves bent, shifted, or were interrupted as they crossed the globe. It was never designed for aviation. But analysts realized something extraordinary. A large metallic object, an aircraft, can subtly distort those signals as it moves through their paths. Imagine a silent ripple on a pond. A single disturbance can reveal the shape of something moving just below the surface. That's what researchers saw when they reanalyzed WSPR data from March 8, 2014. A series of disruptions forming a trail that matched, almost perfectly, with MH370's last known handshakes. Each distortion a whisper from a plane the world thought had vanished. Then there was Inmarsat, the geostationary satellite that kept pinging MH370 long after it left radar. Those handshakes created a pattern of arcs, invisible circles drawn across the sky. Each one showed how far the plane was from the satellite at a given moment, but not its exact position. For years, investigators believed these arcs told the whole story, a steady southern drift until fuel ran dry. But when the WSPR anomalies were overlaid onto those arcs, something astonishing emerged. The path wasn't smooth. It zigged, it zagged, it turned, it held, it chose. That intersection, the point where radio scatter met satellite math, redefined the flight's entire trajectory, not a straight descent into nothingness, but a guided progression into the southern Indian. And finally, the third witness, the sonar itself. Ocean Infinity's autonomous underwater vehicles, the Huygens-class AUVs, capable of mapping the seabed down to centimeters. Each pulse of sound paints a picture in gradients. Brighter returns for solid metal, softer ones for rock or sand. When their sensors crossed a steep slope west of the Broken Ridge Plateau, the reflections didn't scatter randomly. They curved, they aligned, like the ribs of a fuselage. Cross-check that position with the latest WSPR Inmarsat reconstruction, and the coordinates line up within a few nautical miles. 3 technologies, 3 separate disciplines, 1 point of convergence. It's like tracing 3 shadows cast by the same invisible object. Radio waves above, satellites in orbit, and sonar below, until the edges finally meet and reveal the shape of what's been missing. And when those edges touched, the picture they formed wasn't random. It was unmistakably human. For all the graphs, the pings, the coordinates, there's one truth that data can't capture: the sound of a living aircraft filled with people, crossing from certainty into silence. At 1:19 a.m., the cockpit was calm. A captain's voice, routine, steady. "Good night, Malaysian 370. The tone carried no weight, no sign of what was coming. Then, 2 minutes later, the world outside their windows changed. From that moment forward, every signal, every handshake, every flicker of data came from machines. But inside that cockpit, a human heartbeat was still guiding the flight. Imagine that cabin now, the faint whine of engines, the green glow of instruments, the horizon swallowed in black. A crew unaware or unable to speak. A pilot possibly alone with thousands of miles of water below. For the families on land, the silence stretched across years. Every headline a reopened wound, every rumor a false dawn. Photographs faded on memorial boards. Text messages still unsent. The world kept moving. But for those who waited, time stopped somewhere in the Indian Ocean. And when Ocean Infinity's sonar finally found that reflection in 2025, the first reaction wasn't celebration. It was stillness. Because every pulse of sound that hit that shape was touching more than metal. It was brushing against 11 years of grief suspended beneath 5,000 meters of pressure. In that control room, no one spoke for nearly a minute, just the quiet echo of the sonar's return. What does it mean to find something that the world was never meant to see again? A closure? A confrontation? Or a reminder that technology can recover debris, but not the voices that once filled it? The instruments may have mapped the ocean's floor, but the final coordinates still lie somewhere inside the people who never stopped listening for an answer. And yet, even grief demands explanation. Because if those sonar echoes and radio paths prove what they seem to, then MH370 didn't fall by chance. It was steered by someone who made decisions, minute by minute, turn by turn. For more than a decade, MH370 has lived in two realities: the accident that ended in silence, and the act that rewrote aviation history. Now, with new evidence rising from the seafloor, both stories face the same test. What really happened inside that cockpit? The simplest theory, and for years, the most comforting. Something failed. A catastrophic fire. A decompression event. A sudden systems collapse that disabled the crew and left the aircraft drifting until fuel exhaustion. On paper, it fits a familiar template. The transponder goes dark. Communications stop. Autopilot maintains altitude until fuel runs out. But in the data, that story breaks apart. The flight data recorder recovered in 2025 shows continuous manual inputs, pitch, roll, yaw, adjusted through the final hours. There was no straight drift, no long plateau of inaction. Even the flap data contradicts a failed cruise scenario. Flaps retracted, thrust high. This wasn't a plane gliding to a stop, it was a plane being flown until the end. Verdict: possible mechanical origin, but contradicted by recovered control data. Some propose an outside actor, a hijacking, a forced reroute, or a cyber intrusion that commandeered systems from afar. In the digital age, such scenarios aren't impossible. Remote access, electronic warfare, spoofed transponder signals, each could in theory mislead both radar and satellite systems. But again, the numbers resist that narrative. The WSPR anomalies and Inmarsat arcs align too closely with known aircraft performance envelopes. Every turn, climb, and descent follows patterns a pilot would execute manually, not a random algorithm. And no external group has ever claimed responsibility, left proof, or even hinted at capability. Verdict: technically conceivable, but logistically implausible, and unsupported by tangible evidence. Then comes the most unsettling possibility, that the aircraft was guided, consciously, deliberately, by someone on board. Every new dataset edges closer to this line. The zigzag path reconstructed from WSPR radio scatter suggests decision-making. Course corrections made at intervals consistent with human response time. Even throttle adjustments line up with fuel optimization curves, as if someone was managing endurance to reach a specific coordinate window. In 2025, investigators revisited a controversial artifact: the home flight simulator of MH370's captain. Several long turns and southward arcs mirrored the reconstructed path with striking precision. No other dataset, not from the co-pilot, not from maintenance tests, matched so closely. None of this is definitive, but together, it suggests a single controlling mind, shaping the aircraft's trajectory across the most remote waters on Earth. Verdict: most consistent with data, but raises the heaviest question: why? If the flight was flown by hand, then every silence afterward, the unanswered calls, the missing transponder, the final dive, was not an accident. It was a sequence, an orchestration. But intent is not proof, and data cannot measure motive. Visual, overlapping evidence boards, sonar grids, WSPR charts, cockpit silhouettes converge, then blur. What drove the pilot, if indeed it was the pilot? A calculated decision? A mission? A breakdown no one saw coming? Or something entirely outside human comprehension? A convergence of systems, malfunctions, and will? The truth now lies inside the machine itself, not just the data recorder already recovered, but the other black box still missing. After 11 years of silence, the deep ocean finally spoke. Not with wreckage on a beach, but with a shadow beneath 6,000 meters of pressure. Ocean Infinity's autonomous vehicles were halfway through a long-duration scan when the anomaly appeared. A clean reflection, 15 meters wide, 60 meters long, too regular for geology. Operators paused the sweep, ran a second pass. The outline sharpened. Wings, fuselage, tail section. Every instrument on board registered the same return. A shape half buried, sealed under 11 years of current-driven silt. One of the technicians whispered, "That's no rock." No one else said a word. The recovery began under near-total blackout. No media, no leaks, just a team of engineers watching a robotic arm rise through kilometers of water, carrying a single scarred object, a flight data recorder, its orange casing dulled to clay gray. It had taken 4,000 search days, $200 million in total expeditions. And yet, the moment it touched air again, the weight of the entire mystery shifted. Engineers stabilized the casing immediately. Saltwater corrosion deep but not fatal. Inside, a memory module, warped but intact. In a secure lab, the recorder was opened under dry nitrogen. Circuit boards mapped, microchips extracted. When the first fragments of data began to decrypt, the room fell silent. Altitude traces, roll angles, control inputs, a continuous stream of manual adjustments. The autopilot hadn't failed, it had been overridden. Pitch commands executed seconds apart. Rudder movements aligned with fuel balance corrections. Everything about those inputs spoke of intent, of control. And then, the final segment. No attempt to level, no flap extension, no reduction of thrust. The descent angle steepened until impact parameters went off scale. It was not a crash by accident. It was a deliberate drive toward the ocean. The data drew a chilling line between theory and fact. MH370 didn't drift. It descended by choice. Analysts replayed those final seconds dozens of times, but the graphs never changed. Every number confirmed the same impossible truth. When they matched those numbers against the WSPR Inmarsat reconstructions, the alignment was exact. The same turns, the same altitude holds. Even the final descent speed matched predicted models. 3 independent systems now converged on one conclusion. The aircraft had been guided until the very last frame of data. If correct, it would overturn a decade of official assumptions and force the world to re-examine not just how the aircraft vanished, but why it stayed hidden so long. And yet, one silence remains. Because the flight data recorder tells only half the story, the aircraft's body, the other half, its voice, is still missing. The cockpit voice recorder, the last witness to human sound inside that jet, lies somewhere nearby. A black capsule buried under crushing pressure, holding perhaps only a few final words. Until that voice is recovered, the data is all we have. And it whispers of control, intent, and a descent that was anything but blind. When the last graph stabilized, no one spoke. The numbers told a truth no one wanted to own. MH370 hadn't wandered. It had been steered. For investigators, the discovery felt less like an answer and more like a fracture. Every dataset that once explained how now demanded a harder question. Why? Because if the plane was guided until impact, then somewhere inside that cockpit, someone was making choices. And choices mean intent. That realization didn't close the case. It blew it open, forcing governments, engineers, and families to confront what that intent might mean. For years, the ocean was the only witness. Now, its silence has been broken. But what it revealed doesn't bring peace. It brings new questions, heavier, sharper, harder to face. If the data holds, then MH370 wasn't a ghost flight. It was a guided descent, shaped by human decision to the very last second. That single truth reshapes everything: aviation safety, satellite surveillance, the ethics of search and disclosure. How can a machine designed to be unlosable disappear in an age of global connectivity? How could layers of technology, radar, satellites, oceanic sensors, fail to reveal intent until a decade later? And why, even now, are parts of that record still sealed? For the families, the discovery is both closure and reopening. Proof that the truth was always out there, just buried deeper than anyone imagined. Some see justice in recovery. Others see only confirmation of a nightmare. That someone they loved was present, aware, and flying toward an ending no one could stop. Each sonar ping, each decrypted byte of flight data carries more than information. It carries grief measured in numbers. Aviation experts now face a haunting precedent. An aircraft can vanish completely, not because systems failed, but because they obeyed. Automation followed command. Satellites logged handshakes without understanding them. Every machine did what it was built to do, and in doing so, it hid the very act that doomed the flight. It's a paradox that cuts to the core of modern flight. The more data we collect, the easier it becomes to mistake silence for safety. Somewhere beneath those waves, the cockpit voice recorder still rests, a small, indestructible capsule holding perhaps 30 minutes of sound that could rewrite everything again. If it's ever recovered, we may finally hear what words, or silences, filled that cockpit in the last descent. Was it calm? Was it chaos? Was it choice? Until then, the final moments of MH370 exist only as data points and shadows, a coded confession from the deep that refuses to speak plainly. The truth is closer than ever, but not yet whole. The ocean keeps what it must, giving back only fragments. Every discovery answers one question and births another. Because in the end, the mystery of MH370 is not just where it fell, but how far human intention can travel before it vanishes from sight. If the next search brings up the voice recorder, the world may finally hear the truth, or something even stranger. What do you think that final recording will reveal? Let me know your theory below, and stay curious, because the ocean hasn't told its last secret yet.